so obvious. Denying the now, making it into an obstacle, an enemy, how absurd. And going beyond, it's so obvious that you can live differently without needing, again, not falling into the error that you need to become something that you are not now. I need to become enlightened. At some future point I will become, I need to work towards that. One day I'm going to make it. You've fallen into the same mental trap again, which is projecting a future self that is seen to be perfect. Again, you're lost in future, mental projection. You don't, for this shift to happen, you don't need future. This is the amazing thing. The mind will always come back in and say, okay, you need to work on this, get good at it, better at it, or it's not enough yet. All you need is allow this moment to be, whatever form it takes. And this includes inner forms, emotions that come. What can you do? It's there. Anger, fear, it may come. Less when you live in alignment with now, you can see how quickly those painful emotions subside, but for a while they're still there. And they arise. That's what is. I can feel this vibration here. Could be called fear, perhaps. All right, that's how it is. Not resisting. I'm allowing. It is not personal. The more you allow, the more you realize how little personal there is in what you thought was uniquely personal. Human emotion, that's all. A human emotion. Oh. And it ceases to be problematic. Oh. Allow. So the miraculous thing is, you don't need to become anything, just allow what is there. So I've say that some people want to become a spiritual master. That's an idea in the head. Any so-called spiritual master who has the idea in the head that I'm a spiritual master is already lost. Because there's a mental image of who you are. Now, I'm a so-called spiritual teacher at this moment. If I walked out of here and carried in my head the image of me, the spiritual teacher, that would become a dreadful burden. I would be based again in thought. I would have to live up to some image, expectation. Fear would quickly arise. What are they going to think of me tomorrow? But not to carry an identity, not a future identity of me as a spiritual teacher, a spiritual master. What is spiritual mastery? Spiritual mastery is to live in alignment with this moment. What do I need to become a spiritual master? Say yes to what is. That's what how a spiritual master lives. He doesn't resist, he or she doesn't resist what is. And is therefore empowered. The master doesn't demand that the form of this moment should be perfect always. It's not in the nature of forms to be perfect always. There is an imperfection in almost any situation that you go into. And that's fine and good. That is no longer a source of suffering when you recognize it's in the nature of form to go wrong here and there. It does nothing wrong ultimately, but to shift, to change. So the most wonderful place will have a downside to it. Of course it will. The tropical paradise. Friends of mine went to Bali. They hired a cabin in the most beautiful surroundings, paradise, the air like velvet, the scent of flowers. Wow. They started cooking a meal, and suddenly they heard strange scratching noises on the roof and on the windows, and there were rats looking in. And then they learned to live with rats. They had realized what they had to do to keep them out. And you don't expect the forms to be continuously perfect. They are not. So here too, you are in this retreat center, there will be certain imperfections on level of form. In your room, in your bathroom, in the dining hall, who knows where. The most unexpected places. Oh no. This is supposed to be my great time off. I've waited for this, and now I'm here, and this isn't right. Ah, the world of form. Oh, I've forgotten it's the world of form. And then you can allow it, unless you choose to say something about it. Can you please change this? Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But it is as it is. So you live with the so-called imperfections of the world of form, and when you say yes, that's actually not so bad at all. You actually begin to become comfortable with that. You recognize them again and again. Oh, here it comes again. Ah, and when something leaves you, because things tend to do, if you get something and something leaves you again, say, ah. Buddhists sometimes use the word, I think it's anicca, impermanence. Oh, impermanence. Oh, okay, that's how it goes. So, that's the practice. Is so simple here. It just requires a little bit of alertness. What's your relationship to now? Are you aligned with it? Do you bring a yes to it? If not, you can notice that. And by noticing that you are not aligned with now, you can easily step. The very noticing is a stepping out of the non-alignment. Ah, okay. And then you're back in now. Oh, okay. Step back. We'll also see the inner body, of course, as many of you know, can be used as an anchor for staying present, to feel the aliveness in your inner energy field. That becomes an anchor for staying rooted in the now. Especially at night, when involuntary thought processes start playing up. And you just can't stop it. It's like a river, it's like a stream. It goes, and it can be dreadful, torture. You're not, of course, it's totally useless. You're not arriving at any conclusion. No possible realization can come out of that. All realizations come out of a moment of spacious stillness. Ah, that's what I have to do. Okay. But not out of that stream. And so you can choose to put your attention. The mind doesn't like it. The mind, which is the combined thought forms that are happening to go through your head, in your head, they want to keep your attention in there. And you say, okay, I'm going to feel my hands now. And then you feel the aliveness that is still there, miraculously. And in your feet, there's an aliveness, and in your legs. Ah. And then you can feel the pull of your thinking. You must think about this. Well, no, I'm in my hands. Feel. Ah. Oh. Legs. And suddenly, it's good. All your attention is moved from the head into the body. And suddenly you realize you're not in hell, You're in a warm bed. And then you realize how benign and benevolent, mostly, not always, the present moment actually is, the reality of now compared to the hell that the human mind can create and often does create. How benevolent this moment is. And this is just one example of when you lie in bed and your head creates hell. Thank you. I wish you a pleasant night.
This concludes Lesson 1. Lesson 2. Get into your body. Practices for inner body awareness.
If you've been to a talk or retreat before, you know that I often point out at this stage that you should check within to see if you are waiting for something to happen. Waiting for the talk to start. What does that mean, waiting? It means there's a little bit of inner strain, a slight, very tiny inner stress that pulls you away from here and now. Expressed facially, could be like and when you notice that, then you know something about your relationship with the present moment. You lost it. The end of a relationship. Now, did he or she leave you, or did you leave him or her? He or she doesn't leave you, you left. The waiting is so subtle and so all-pervasive as one's normal state of consciousness that most people don't even know that they are in an almost continuous state of waiting. That's how normal it is. Once you detect it in yourself as a slight tension, strain, stress. Sometimes there's a little bit of irritation mixed in. A thought mixed in. Come on, let's get on with it. We only have a couple of hours this morning. Come on. But if you notice it in yourself as a mental energy field, even some emotion may go with it. Irritation is an emotion. Thoughts go with it occasionally. The moment you notice it, something has arisen that is not part of that deeply conditioned mind pattern. The seeing of it is not part of it. The seeing of it, and that's the seeing of any pattern in yourself, is not part of the pattern. And the seeing, the recognizing of it, requires you to be present, aware at this moment, awake. So when you see a pattern in yourself, mental, emotional, conditioned, of course. Now the waiting is a collective pattern. Almost everybody has that. There may be other patterns in you that you detect that are to do with your personal life. It doesn't matter what it is, it could be the simplest thing. When you see a man with a beard and dark hair, you feel anxious, and then you realize that maybe he looks like your father and you didn't have a good relationship with him. So any pattern, collective or personal, when you detect it, there's something more at that moment than that which you see. There is the seeing of it. Before, the pattern absorbed your consciousness completely. You wear it. You become it. You are the waiting, anxious, somewhat irritated person. There's no space around the irritation, around the stress of that moment. There's no space around it. You are in it. And then suddenly you see it. And one could say it is a stepping back, perhaps the deeper meaning of retreat. Because you're retreating not only from the world that you usually move in, you have to retreat also from the world in your head. You step back. And something arises that is not conditioned, and that is pure, simple, pure, miraculous consciousness, awareness, presence, whatever you want to call it. And that is the part in you that is not conditioned. Everything else is conditioned. The seeing, that is an energy field. I'm using seeing metaphorically. It's not necessarily with your eyes. The noticing, the seeing, you may feel it but there is the presence in which it is felt, which means suddenly there's space around that. And so it could be anything that you notice in yourself. It could be compulsive behavior, this or that, compulsive reaction. Almost everything is compulsive. Well, everything is compulsive when you are not there as the witnessing presence. Your entire movement of thought is compulsive. You can't stop, or you think you can't stop. And the mind loves to tell you that you cannot stop and make a problem out of that, which leads to further thinking. Why can't I stop my mind? I mean, that's what's wrong with me. I've been doing meditation for years. I've been coming to, and I still can't do it. There's no point in going on, is there? And then you believe in every thought. There's no point in going on. I might as well chuck it all in. And then suddenly you step back and you watch those thoughts. So, this is the arising of something new in you. New in the sense that you hadn't noticed that dimension in yourself before. It was there all along, waiting underneath all the conditioned mind movements, but you didn't know it was there. And suddenly it arises, it kind of, at this time in the evolution of the planet and of humanity, that is pushing through from underneath all the conditioned collective stuff that people carry and identify with as themselves. Something else is pushing forward from a deeper dimension within you. It's almost like the eggshell needing to break. Something wants to come out of there. And so there comes a time when the shell, and which is really the shell of that egoic sense of self that consists of identification with thought, needs to break. There is an evolutionary impulse in the universe towards consciousness. And that has been playing itself out on the planet for millions of years. Consciousness expressing itself in ever-changing forms. And through humans, consciousness now wants to come to a flowering that hasn't happened before, never on a large scale, only to a few isolated individuals. And what humans did to them, well, either they ignored them completely, or they killed them, or they made them into gods to be worshipped. And those were only the few individuals in whom this came through almost prematurely, but they were necessary precursors of what was to come, a deeper change. Now, I'm not telling you, of course, to wait for some change to happen on the planet. You know, there are many times in the history, groups of people have waited for the end or some drastic change. We are not waiting. I'm just pointing out that this gathering here is already part of this transformation, this flowering of consciousness. And anybody who in a so-called future moment, which doesn't exist, listens to this, it'll be in the now. Nobody could ever listen to this anywhere else except in the now, is also part of that transformation of consciousness, because as you listen, something new arises. There is more here than the words. There is that which the words point to, which is here as an alive presence in you. An inner arising. there's more here than the words. If there were only the words, it wouldn't be that much. So consciousness then wants to flower through the human form. Whether it fully will do that on a large scale, we don't know yet. Although it is happening here, there's also the dysfunction of the old form, which is no longer working. Similar to a caterpillar that comes to the end of its lifespan as a caterpillar, and the closer it comes to the end of its lifespan as a caterpillar, the more difficult it gets to continue to. Suddenly the crawling doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't, things don't work anymore. The caterpillar existence becomes dysfunctional. It was fine before, because something new is destined to emerge out of this thing that is bound by gravity, can't even lift itself up 1 inch. And now the evolutionary transformation, when it happens, is not a progressive thing of getting better and better at doing something in a certain way, but a complete leap to another dimension. So in the case of the caterpillar, it doesn't mean that he gets better at crawling faster and faster. No, that is left behind completely, and something emerges that is it's a different being. Suddenly something comes out of it, and it has the most beautiful wings, and it flies off. Has almost no weight at all. Has completely transcended the gravity of the planet. And in the case of humans, what does that mean? Humans have been immersed in thinking for thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. The arising of thought was a necessary stage in the evolution. Of course, it was